Today, I want to talk to you about speed. Because though we are running fast, we still need time to think. And I don't think that we are devoting enough time to thinking. For example, President Trump took office about 30 days ago, and he's issued 6 times as many executive orders as he did during his first term. Do we have time to think about that? The consequences of each one of those executive orders. I hear, for example, that there is an intention of a land grab in Greenland, another one in Panama, and also on the Gaza Strip, and some peace initiatives for Ukraine. But I never hear about the fate of the thousands of Ukrainian children that were abducted into Russia to be Russified. I mean, we need time for that, and time is scarce. So today, I'm going to go back, thanks to Jared Henderson, to the 1860s, when President Abraham Lincoln and Douglas had debates, and they toured about 7 cities in Illinois, debating, and those debates were long, 3 hours long. And 100 years later, they only lasted 1 hour. And the consequence was that the people focused on what the presidential candidates looked like rather than what they said, because there wasn't much time to say anything thoughtful. But this doesn't happen just by chance. If we follow the arguments of Dr. Strinks, we realize that there is a purpose in just throwing information at you because you actually can't manage it. It's like being on drugs. It has the same purpose. And that's perhaps why we have moved into TikTok. Let's think about it, shall we?
Some sources say that up to 18,000 people attended these debates, and they were later printed. That's how you can read them. And it's actually how Lincoln became famous in the first place. So each debate was 3 hours long, and it would actually begin with a 60-minute opening statement from one of the candidates. And then there was a highly structured format with prolonged responses. This meant that the audience had to be able to stay focused for 3 hours and also needed to be able to follow a single complex thought for up to an hour or sometimes 90 minutes at a time. And Postman says that they're able to do this because this audience, which would have mostly been literate people, would be used to following long trains of thought because they had been reading books. And when you read the Lincoln-Douglas debates, you actually see orators speaking in long, complex sentences. How they speak is actually being influenced by the kinds of sentences that they would have read. But if you skip forward to 1960 and the Kennedy-Nixon debates, you see something really different, because these were the first political debates that were on television. So instead of an hour for an opening statement, the entire debate was only an hour, and the opening statement that each candidate got was only 8 minutes. This meant that the audience watching at home didn't have to worry about following one thought for up to an hour or 90 minutes. Instead, they just got it into small, condensed chunks of information that they could more easily consume. And that mirrors their general media consumption that they would get from watching television all the time. The whole debate was only an hour. It was one slot of primetime television. And you know what the big takeaway of that debate was? Was that Nixon looked bad on TV. That's why people say that he lost.
The drugs work the same way. Social media works the same way. When social media first came out, heroin and cocaine were sort of the drugs of the day. And then along came a whole row of synthetic drugs, mixing methamphetamine with this, that, and the other thing. Quicker, faster hits. Same thing in social media. First was Facebook, came Instagram, then came Twitter. Everything comes down, smaller and smaller little fragments and sound bites, and then of course we end up with TikTok and similar apps where now just 3 to 5 seconds. Or if you can't do Facebook in 3 to 5 seconds, you have to spend time with it. So the analogy is absolutely perfect because they both work the same way.
So this was about speed. And this is where we are. We started with reading books and how people cherished long sentences. And then we moved on to television and we realized that we had lost a lot. But by the time we got to TikTok, we don't really know where we are. But the fact is that we are being thrown at information about issues that are really world encompassing, and we have to take decisions, or at least think that we have the power to take those decisions. So now let's think at the impact of speed on decision making as experienced by Antony Blinken.
Now it's so much more complicated. All of that is amplified by the other thing that's changed more than anything else, I think, over these 32 years that I've been doing this, and that's speed. It used to be that we had a little bit of distance. If you were working in government 32 years ago, when I started out, everyone did the same thing. You got up in the morning, you opened a hard copy of the newspaper, the New York Times, the Post, whatever it was, the Wall Street Journal, and then if you had a TV in your office, at 6:30 at night, you turned it on, and it was either CBS, ABC, or NBC. That was the common denominator. Of course, we've now had this massive democratization of information, but what goes along with that is that everyone is on an intravenous feed, where every millisecond you're getting a new input or impulse. And the pressure to react, to respond, to do something without having the distance to sit back and try to think, that's changed dramatically too.
So, we got to where I wanted to be. I wanted to stress the importance of speed and the lack of time to think deeply about the issues that are going on. I mean, it's okay if you want to be the president and prove that you are really a decision maker and issue executive orders, but too many of them, too fast, might not allow us to think about the consequences of them. It's not only about the children in Ukraine being Russified. That's important enough, and I don't see enough about it. But you see, alleging that you're going to grab Canada, the Panama Canal, Greenland, the Gaza Strip, and pacify the Ukraine, all in 30 days, leads to something, or to the bewilderment that Antony Blinken was suggested that he experienced as Secretary of State. We have to need time to think, or make it. Thank you very much.